Scottish Football Podcast from BBC Radio Scotland.
This is an audio download of Scottish Football from BBC Scotland. I'm Kenny McIntyre. For terms and conditions of use, please go to our website, bbc.co.uk/sportscotland. Today's podcast is taken from BBC Radio Scotland Sportsound programme of Monday the 16th of May. I was joined by Keith Jackson, Richard Wilson and Tam McManus for our usual Monday night format where we ask our listeners to set the agenda. The weekend provided plenty of talking points. Plenty to get through tonight, Tam. We've got full coverage from the Falkirk Stadium on Thursday night. It should be a real cracker. Oh, it's been an unbelievable game. If it's anything like the Hibs game, then we're in for another cracker. I thought that over the two legs, I thought Hibs were probably the better side, but games are decided in both boxes, and Hibs didn't defend properly. We're 2-1 up in both legs and lost goals, and decisions went against them. But fair play to Falkirk, they took their chances when they got them, and they go down to Kilmarnock with every chance. Let's hear from fans of both clubs ahead of that playoff. In terms of Hibs, you're a Hibs fan, Tam. Question marks over the future of Alan Stubbs? I think it's Alan Stubbs' decision, to be honest. I don't see Hibs getting rid of him. I think he's done well at Hibs. It's just fine margins. It really is, and it's a tough gig being a Hibs fan at the minute. They lost the League Cup final in the last minute. They lost promotion in the last kick of the game. And they've got Sunday coming up against Rangers, and who bets on the treble coming up and maybe losing the last minute goal there. That's something that Hibs fans just daren't think about. But I think Alan Stubbs' go is it'll be on his own terms. I don't see Hibernian getting rid of him. Well, let's hear from what do you think?
I was going to say the flip side of that is Alan Stubbs wins the Scottish Cup this weekend, and there'll be a statue to him outside the stadium. That's the fine lines here. He's 90 minutes away from becoming a legendary figure at Hibs. But another season in the Championship, do you think he's up for that? I personally don't. I'd rather suspect that Alan Stubbs might have his eye on something down south at this minute in time. It wouldn't surprise me at all if he left, but if he leaves Hibs, it'll be under his own steam, under his decision. Right, lots of Hibs fans getting in touch, a few unhappy that we're even talking about this tonight, but 0500 92 95 00 is the number to call. Plenty of speculation around Rangers, Richard. Lots of transfer targets being suggested over the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, that's right, Kenny. I guess it started over the weekend with Rangers confirming they'd signed Jordan Rossiter, and then they had Joey Barton up in Glasgow around the training ground, meeting the manager, playing a round of golf at Loch Lomond yesterday. It may be the end of the week before Rangers get an answer from Joey Barton, but they're clearly in the mix for him, and it remains to be seen whether Burnley come back with a different offer. But this Rangers deal seems to be relatively far down the line, so the player's certainly got a decision to make. Lots of other names being mentioned. Danny Ings, for example, as a possibility on loan. It's certainly my understanding that he considers his future at Liverpool and sees himself very much as part of Jurgen Klopp's squad down there. So I think there's going to be a lot of stuff going around over the next few days, not least because Rangers are keen to get their business done quickly.
Still no sign of Grant Hanley.
No, not sign of Graham Spears either. Maybe they're having transfer talks together.
Well, let's see if Spears will call in 0500 92 95 00. Let's hear from our first caller tonight. Robert Toohill is a Falkirk fan in Dingle. Good evening to you, Robert. Thanks for calling in. What do you make of the job being done by Peter Houston? He's a regular on Sportsound, and we get so much positive feedback from Falkirk fans, not just what he's done in these playoffs, but throughout the whole season, what he's done with your club.
Well, I think he deserves all the credit he's getting just now, because I think that if you look at it at the start of the season, the teams that were in the league, I think Falkirk, I would admit that we would have to be aiming for probably fourth place. You would have Rangers, probably Hibs, and probably expected St Mirren to be up there. So I think we've overachieved, and I think that whilst the playoffs were the aim, I think getting second place and missing out on that, the first set of playoffs has done as well, and getting the 10-day or 11-day break, whatever it was, in between finishing the season proper and getting some time to prepare for the two Hibs games has done as well. And I think that the majority of the credit must go to Peter Houston for that, because I think the real thing that's shown through has been resilience for Falkirk, because the amount of times we've gone down or gone behind and come back to equalise or come back to win late on in the games, it's happened a number of times, and they don't seem to know when they're beating this team.
Yeah, I see the demand for tickets for Thursday night huge. It looks as if it's a sellout. I'm seeing Falkirk tweeting this afternoon, incredible, over 3,500 tickets have been sold for Sunday's playoff final second leg away to Kilmarnock. That's since 10 o'clock this morning. Tam, it's a fantastic job that Peter is doing there. Do you make them favourites now? I mean, take us inside the dressing rooms, the training grounds at both clubs. Must be totally contrasting emotions in there.
It is. I mean, if you look at Kilmarnock, they're used to getting beat this season, and that's a big thing. They're used to getting beat. Falkirk are on a massive high just now. As Robert was saying there, they're never beat. I compare them to the film The Revenant with Leonardo DiCaprio. You mean you left him in a ditch, a bear ate him, and he's still alive, and he comes back to haunt you at the end of the film. And that's like Falkirk.
That's exactly what I think about when I look at Falkirk. Exactly that.
And that's what it's like with Falkirk. You need to kill them off, and Hibs had opportunities 2-1 up in both games to go and kill them off, and they didn't take them, and they come back and bite them at the end. So for me, and I would love to see it, I'd love to see Falkirk going back up again, and Kilmarnock obviously coming down and playing the Ayrshire derbies with United. That could be a possibility, but
not be much consolation for Kilmarnock or the people taking care of their finances. That would be a hammer blow for Kilmarnock. I look at it, Tam, and people have spoken about this spirit, this camaraderie at Falkirk. That has to be. That's the manager that deserves all the credit for that. He seems to have engineered this feeling that they're all fighting for each other. Even if somebody makes a mistake, misplaces a pass, then there's somebody there putting an arm around them, giving them a G up. Tremendous sort of chemistry between the players, and I think that's got to be a huge factor going into this game at a time. Well, Kilmarnock, the backdrop to Kilmarnock has been toxic for more than the last 2 seasons now, and you just feel it's 2 clubs moving in completely different directions. However, you must always remember Motherwell last season. The example they set, they'd been in tailspin for some considerable time. Not many people fancied their chances, and yet when it came down to it, against the team that came up from that had the chance of coming up from the Championship, they showed that they had extra quality. I don't know. I'm not going to say anything because I tipped Hibs to win the last one, so I don't want to put the hex on anybody now.
Who are you tipping, Robert? Are you quietly confident?
I'm quietly confident, but I think it's going to be tough. I mean, you couldn't get a cigarette paper between Falkirk and Hibs this season, and I think that Kilmarnock have got obviously the experience of a number of years now in the top flight, and we're trying to get back there. I mean, I think we're due them one. They relegated us, and obviously the cup final in '97 as well, and I think a League Cup semi a few years ago. I think it'll be difficult. I think that Falkirk have only lost 4 games this season, which is remarkable, and I know there's been maybe too many draws if you want to look at the negative side of things, but I had a look at Kilmarnock's form, and they're pretty inconsistent. I mean, they'll go and lose 5-1 to Dundee United, for example, but then they can go and turn over teams like Hamilton Accies and St Johnstone. And obviously the weekend game just passed. I don't think that will have any bearing on what's going to happen on Thursday night, because I think Lee Clark was on record himself as saying that he basically wrote that game off to rest some key players and maybe not give away a bit of the formation and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm confident, but that's not to say that I'm expecting us to go and do it. I think being at home on Thursday night, if we can get a result there and take it down to Rugby Park, and maybe defend well if we've got a lead to protect, but I don't think that's the kind of ethos that Peter Houston's got. I think he likes to go for it.
He does. It's attractive football. Well, listen, we've got full coverage. Robert, thanks for the call. 0500 92 95. We'll have full coverage of both legs. The first one Thursday night live from the Falkirk Stadium on Sportsound. Next up is James, who is a Hibs fan. Unhappy, James, at missing out on promotion. You think Alan Stubbs should stay, I'm being told. Also unhappy with media speculation in the week before the cup final.
Hi, Denny. I've got a couple of points as you've touched on in there. I think I like Stubbs. I think most Hibs fans like Stubbs, would agree with that. He's brought in some good players. We're playing some decent football under Stubbs. But you can't deny the fact that not going up this season is a total failure. I mean, staying in for a 3rd season in the Championship is a disaster. You can't really defend that, can you? It's finishing in below Falkirk and then getting beaten by them, obviously in the two legs. you can't defend that. It stems from boardroom level. The club, we're a laughing stock. Underachievers, but we are a laughing stock. It stems from the boardroom, and we've been on a downward spiral for years.
Well, James, just hold on a second, James. I'll bring the lads in, but let's hear what Alan Stubbs said after that defeat to Falkirk on Friday night.
The primary goal for the season, Alan, was promotion. It means a third season in the Championship.
Yeah.
Will that have any impact on what happens at the club next season with regards to budget and players staying or players going?
I think it obviously relating that to me and all, Brian. I don't know. You're going to ask a question, then ask it properly.
With yourself, then?
Yeah, it's I think whenever you'd have any season, you speak about it at the end of the season, and it's the same. We're disappointed. Our main priority was promotion, and unfortunately we haven't got it.
Are you saying that you could leave the club this summer? Then
I'm not saying that. I'm saying the question was aimed at.
Consider your future.
No, I've got a year left. And I would not. There's nothing better than to try and get this club in. We've put really good foundations down to take the club forward, and we feel we're doing that. But we've just been dealt a real sucker punch tonight.
Right, Alan Stubbs there, James. Do you think it's right? Is it not right for us to be talking about the manager's future?
It is. But tell me this: on the lead up to the game against the Falkirk, particularly the second leg, he's been linked with every job down south, Blackburn, Bolton. So which one is it?
Do you not think he's happy about that? Do you not think he'd welcome that?
No. So is he? What? So is he too good for him? A few days before we play Falkirk, and now that Falkirk have put us out, and it's no surprise. Let's be honest, Hibs were maybe marginally favourites to put out Falkirk, but no one was really surprised Falkirk beat Hibs over two legs. So Stubbs our poor manager because Falkirk beat us over two legs.
Let's be clear on this, Kenny. Of course, Alan Stubbs wants to be linked with other jobs. Every manager does. That's the nature of the game. He's done a good 2 years at Hibs. If you take the bigger picture into consideration, from when he got the club when he went there to where they are now, Hibs are in a better place.
Well, we're in the same position, though, are we not?
No, you've got a better team. You've got a much better squad.
We have got a better team, but it's been a third season in the Championship. So how much of the better players that Hibs have got just now? How many of them are we going to have another rebuilding job in the summer? A better players league.
A lot of that's
we're not in a better position.
You've got a better team. A lot of that's going to depend on the finances, how many players Hibs can keep, whether they could maybe sell one like they did last time. This time last summer, Hibs were budgeting for maybe 2 players coming in. They sold Scott Allen. All of a sudden, they were able to bring in 3 or 4 more. They'll probably sell Jason Cummings this summer. That might give some leeway in the budget. But you are in a better place because you've got a better team. You've been to 2 cup finals this season. You've got a better manager than you did a couple of years ago.
Okay, I know. I think you're saying, and don't get us wrong. As I say, I do like Stubbs, and I agree with parts of what you're saying. But when you look into it, success is not getting to a cup final for a club, for any club. Like a club has the size of getting to the cup final. You've got to win the cup final. Yeah, okay, if we win the cup final on Saturday, it's a big if. Then they're all legends. It doesn't change the fact that we're going to spend another season at Championship.
So do you want someone else than Alan Stubbs then? Is that what you're saying? You think Alan Stubbs has failed over the 2 years?
I'm saying I like Stubbs. I'm not saying get rid of him. What I'm saying is, if you're judging on him through now, then it's been a failure because the 2 seasons spent in the Championship. There's no doubt about it that last season we kind of got away with it.
James,
we had to go at.
I've spoken to a number of Hibs fans who speak in one voice on this one. Actually, not too bothered about spending another year in that division if they can deliver the Scottish Cup, if they can break this hoodoo. It would make it all worthwhile.
That goes without. Let's not be daft. We're not going to spend 114 years in the Championship, are we?
No.
So,
you say that now.
you know what I mean? It goes without saying. But it's all listen back to me.
The one thing I would say, James, I do take your point that you're still in the Championship. Hearts outspent Hibs the first season. Rangers have outspent Hibs the second season. Rangers have outspent them the first season as well.
How much did Hibs outspend Falkirk this season then?
Massively.
Yeah, I agree, and it came down to the fine margins of those playoff places.
Are you saying he's done a good... Wait a minute though.
Games
Listen.
Finished below Falkirk, over 36 games and finished underneath Falkirk. There's not just there's fine margins in the in the two playoff games. Of course there was. But you can't.
James, let's cut to the chase. Has Alan Stubbs done a good job for your club? Yes or no?
It's a tricky one to answer. Arsenal and Sunday. But yeah, I like Stubbs. He has brought us forward as a team. Yeah, but if we don't win the cup on Saturday and we're spending another season in the Championship, of course it's a failure. Of course, you can't deny that.
Right.
I think Stubbs would admit that himself, wouldn't he?
Right, well, Stuart Anderson on Twitter, every faith, green and white ribbons on the cup on Saturday. Coco on Twitter, Stubbs still learning the job. I think he will hand in his resignation regardless of the result on Saturday. Dempster won't accept it, and I'd have a huge respect if he stays and finishes his job. Jock and Roll on Twitter says, I'm not a Hibs fan, but got to say they were unlucky, plus they might still win the Scottish Cup. And Paul Harthill says on Twitter, all Stubbs does is play mind games. Every team in Scotland has a measure of him and his tactics now. So let's put this one to Tam. Do you think his job depends on Saturday, or do you think that there's enough there for the board to say, look, we've been unlucky this season, he has taken the club forward?
I think regardless of result on Saturday, he will leave. I don't think he's got an appetite for another year in the Championship. I think if he's got an opportunity to go to Bolton, where he was a player and he's very highly rated, I think he would go. There's rumours of Blackburn as well. And who knows, it might have been Alan Stubbs' agent who's looked at the newspapers. That's sometimes how it works. Keith will tell you here.
No, I don't know why you're looking at me.
Managers and players, and agents, they like to leak stories to newspapers and media, to try and entice people in. And that might happen, but if Alan Stubbs wins the Cup on Saturday, he goes down as a legend, and I think he'll leave. And regardless, if he doesn't win the Cup, I think he'll leave. I think he'll walk away and resign and go into something in England.
Yeah, just finally from yourself, James, I asked Hibs fans earlier, do you still have faith in Alan Stubbs? Eddie McRobbie on Twitter responded, the question is, do we have faith in the standard of the officials in the Scottish game? No, says Eddie. Do you feel you were badly let down over the two legs?
Firstly, can I just say I totally agree with Tom. I do think Stubbs I think he's hit the nail on the head there with Stubbs. I think that's exactly what will happen. Obviously, we never seem to get a bit of luck. Alice Kenny heavy. It doesn't matter. We never seem to get a break. But, over a 36-game season, is the Championship and the playoffs, if you don't take your chances at one end, and you don't clear your penalty box properly and win second balls, then you're always going to ask for trouble. And this has happened with Hibs all season. I know you can blame the refs. Of course, in the first game we're badly let down. But you can't just put that and blame that on the failure of the whole season.
Right. Okay, well listen, James, thanks very much indeed for the call. That's James, a Hibs fan, 0500 92 95 00. Next up is Andrew on the line. Good evening to you, Andrew. You want to talk about the potential Rangers signings? You there, Andrew? Andrew was calling up to speak about potential Rangers signings, Keith. I mean, Joey Barton is the one that's got everyone going. You look at social media, everyone talking about. We'll bring you in just a second. You're with us now, Andrew?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can. Good evening to you, Andrew. You want to talk about the potential signings at Rangers?
Yeah, very much. And I think, the names very much we've been hearing today, such as Joey Barton, the Croatian boy whom Mark Warburton flew to New York to speak about. He's got a bit of form at Portsmouth, etc., Tottenham Hotspur. Even, I think, the head striker Jason Cummins was mentioned, along with former Scotland player Graham Dorrans. I'm not sure, mind you, Keith could maybe answer this. Where's all the money coming from, Keith, for the wages and the transfer fees, etc.?
It's a very interesting one, Andrew. I must say, how would I say this? I was looking forward to seeing the level of Rangers' ambition in the transfer market this summer.
Yeah.
And I would say that I'm surprised by the level at which they appear to be operating right now. Now, it's one thing going and speaking to these players, another thing getting the deals done. However, you must give Rangers credit for signing Jordan Rossiter from Liverpool. That's an exceptional piece of business.
Yeah.
That kid, Liverpool were hoping to get £8 million in if we went to another English club via tribunal. I think they would have probably settled for somewhere in the region of 4 or 5 million. Rangers have picked that kid up for £250,000 and convinced him to come up the road. So I think the key to all of this appears to be the work of Frank McParland, who is head of recruitment. And he has sourced these players. He has a relationship with some of them. He was the key guy in persuading Joey Barton to move to Burnley last summer. And it looks as if he's played a major role in enticing them up north again. I think further north this time, somewhere even rainier and colder. But I think the key to Barton as well is McParland has a personal relationship with him, and he realises, I don't think the final factor when Joey Barton decides which way he's going on this one will be a financial one. We're talking about a guy here who's spent several years earning £90,000 a week at clubs like QPR and Newcastle. Money is not the decisive factor, won't be in this decision. But Rangers will still have to push the boat out financially to make an offer which is acceptable to them. You could be looking anywhere in the ballpark between 15 and 25,000. I don't know the exact terms of the contract offer that's been made, but it'll be somewhere in the middle of that. So that's fairly substantial wages, and it surprises me. And you have to say credit where it's due.
Andrew, I mean, in terms of finances, I mean, it's worth remembering that obviously Rangers will have more income in the top flight.
Sure.
If as is likely, say Nicky Law, Nicky Clark, David Templeton leave, that's a good chunk off the wage bill from there that they would free up for more money. And obviously, the shareholders have already pledged investment for this season, are prepared to put more money in next season at a sustainable, at a reasonable amount. They're not going to throw screeds of money at this. Rangers are trying to do this in a responsible way, but they do have people who are willing to put some money into the club just now to get it back on its feet, get it back to a level where it's challenging for the title again, and then they hope that they can rebalance the business from that point. So there is money there to spend, and people are prepared to put their hands in their pockets just now at a relatively sane level to bring some people in. But none of these guys, as Keith has just said, Rangers are not going to be throwing huge amounts of money at these guys. It will still be sustainable, and it wouldn't surprise me if Rossiter doesn't see out 4 years of his contract. Rangers will see him as an asset that they can sell back down to England for £3, £4, £5 million if he does well, and then they've made some money out of that deal. Barton's a different one, and it goes against the grain, but that's the one the manager wants. That's the one he's put his weight behind this summer, and he's persuaded the board to make a move for him.
Yeah, Andrew, lots of people talking about this. We put the question out on Twitter earlier, would it be a gamble for Rangers to go for Joey Barton? Neil says any gamble is redressed by the fact McParland knows him well. Great signing for Rangers and for Scottish football, according to Neil. Andy Rorison says thinks he would be a great signing. Dougie Bell saw him 8 or 9 times last season. He is unquestionably a quality player, be in no doubt. Damien Spears, who won Player of the Year for the team that won the English Championship, would be a great signing. Calsh 1967 on Twitter, would Messi be a great signing for Alloa? Phone in and discuss. Won't happen, but hey. And according to Gary Harper on Twitter,
well,
there are
that's
reports
just
saying
silly, isn't
that
it?
Joey
Why do you even
Barton.
read that out?
Well, because some people are saying it's absolutely not going to happen.
This is all manufactured. Joey Barton didn't arrive in Glasgow at the beginning. It's just, come on.
Well, some people are saying he's using it for leverage in terms of Burnley contract. That's probably true. According to Gary Harper on Twitter, the report saying that Joey Barton is signing a 2-year deal at Burnley this week.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it could be leverage. We're all clear that kind of thing can happen. I think where it maybe moves beyond that slightly is, as Keith mentioned before, Joey Barton's relationship with Frank McParland. They go back a long way. It's worth remembering as well that Mark Warburton and Sean Dyche know each other very well. Rangers, I think, are pretty clear that the belief, certainly at Burnley, is that Joey Barton is much more of a reformed character than he was, say, earlier in his career, when he was unmanageable at times.
Adding Joey Barton to Glasgow and the rivalries up here, it seems to me a little bit like pouring water in the head of a gremlin.
I think there is a view that he is a much more calm and measured and mature person now than he was several years ago. He has a family, he has a partner. I took a look at his disciplinary record today. Played 40 games for Burnley last season, booked 10 times. Okay, we all know he has a history, we all know there's a notoriety there, but he's been an exceptional player for them this season, and certainly Sean Dyche found him easy to manage in that respect. Where I think it might not be a leverage thing is because of the personal relationships that he has with McParland, and he's come up and he's met Warburton and Weir, so I think they would be very personally let down if he suddenly went back to Burnley and signed a 2-year deal. So there's a lot on the line on this, a lot of reputations on the line, particularly because, as I say, this was the one that Mark Warburton want, and he's pushed the Rangers board. He said to them this is the player that they want, so they've made their move for him.
Are you happy, Andrew, to see Rangers linked with the players you have done over the past few days?
I think, in fairness, Kenny, being a North East boy, I would rather be talking about Aberdeen, but was saying to your producer, Kenny, the only signing Aberdeen have made so far is a boy from Bournemouth that's been loaned out 9 times. there's been more talk around about Pittodrie this week about new stadiums in 2 years going over to West Hill, etc., which is badly needed. Pittodrie's falling apart now. It's well past its sell-by date, but I just can't see, how you'll ever stop people having an interest in the Old Firm, given the level of excitement surrounding some of the players that go there.
Would you agree, Andrew, that if Joey Barton signs, and I can tell you that Mark Warburton was in New York before meeting Joey Barton, before flying back to give him the guided tour, so he's spoken in person with Nico Cranshaw. Now, these are big teams. These are very decent players. You throw that into the mix and say Celtic, because all indications at this minute in time are pointing strongly towards Roy Keane. You put Roy Keane in there, and as the manager of Celtic next season, he's not going to come unless he's properly funded, unless he can go and bring in a quality and level of player that he thinks is necessary for the job. So you throw all that in to next season. There's a touch of box office about this, and it's been missing from Scottish football for some considerable time.
I quite agree, Keith, and it's been long overdue, and I can't wait for the start of the new season.
Well, just finally from yourself, Andrew, you're talking about Aberdeen there.
Sure.
And last week in the programme, Tam, you were questioning the job that Derek McInnes has done there this season.
Yeah, I mean, I as I said, Graham Spears was a big advocate. He was advocate Derek McInnes for Celtic. Myself and Keith nearly hit the ground.
But two Celtic fans called in and said, why not?
They did and agreed, but I don't think he's improved Aberdeen. I mean, have they finished any closer to Celtic this season? And I think Celtic are a lot worse this season than they were the previous season in terms of the games they've lost and the amount of points they've dropped. So for me, I don't see that at all. I think Derek McInnes will be looking to build at Aberdeen next season and get off to a good start, or else he may be being questioned as well.
Right, okay, thanks to Andrew for the call there. Keep them coming. 0500 92 95 00. Keith was saying that he thinks everything points to Roy Keane being named as the next Celtic manager. Too strong?
Well, no, that's what I said. Everything at this moment in time does point towards. That's not to say that Peter Lawwell, Dermot Desmond don't have something else up their sleeve. Of course,
I wouldn't be ruling out Brendan Rodgers at this stage.
Peter Lawwell's not let you know as yet.
No, it'll be a long time coming.
0500 92 95. Let's hear from Celtic fans on this time. Next up, it's James from Edinburgh. Good evening to you, James. You want to talk about loan deals and the negative effect they can have on competition between teams in the same league?
Yes, indeed, Kenny. I wonder to what extent Celtic have put loan players out across the leagues, and now Rangers coming into the upper league, taking loan players in. Both of the effect of both of these, I just wonder to what extent it distorts a league, particularly when you have players being loaned out when they can't compete in certain competitions and certain games. And I think it's worthy of discussion from the panel that to what extent are they influencing the outcome of the league with this kind of thing? And should we be looking at loan deals only happening outside of the league you're playing in?
I understand your point, James, but I think it's highly unlikely that a team would loan a player out to a direct rival in their league. So I'm not sure that they're necessarily altering the shape of the competition, that are certainly the end of the table that they're competing in. For example, I don't see Celtic or Rangers loaning a player to Aberdeen or Hearts at Aberdeen, vice versa, loaning players anywhere else. So I don't think it's as much of an issue as you're making out. I think in theory, yes, in an ideal world you wouldn't loan players out to the league that you're in, but I think from the bigger picture perspective, because what we're basically talking about here, usually in Scotland, is younger Scottish players. We want them to be playing at as high a level as we can get them to be playing at. They need game time. The development league, the under-20 league, doesn't work for developing footballers. They're just playing guys their own age. It's not working. Their development is stalling. They need to play first-team football. They need that experience. And the higher league they can get that in, the better. I don't think it has a detrimental impact on the league. I don't think it undermines the competition. And ultimately, it's better for the players if they can play at as high a level as they can.
Yes, well, if you consider then, Richard, that let's just say Celtic who are loaning players out rather than taking players in and loan, they only have to loan out one or two key good players to teams competing with them in the Scottish League to actually distort the performance within the league.
But I don't think that they wouldn't be loaning out players who would be good enough for their own team. They're loaning out young players who are developing. Aidan Nesbitt went to Partick Thistle, he's 16, 17? That's not distorting the competition, that's not having an undue influence on the competition.
Well, if you bear with me, Richard, I think it does, because I'll tell you why. Because if that player is making a good contribution to Partick Thistle, for example, and then they go and play against Celtic, and that player cannot play against Celtic, he's actually undermining the performance of Partick Thistle when it comes to playing against Celtic, and that in turn distorts the entire league.
I don't agree with that. I mean, if Celtic didn't loan him to Partick Thistle, he wouldn't be playing against Celtic anyway. So I don't quite get. I don't follow the logic of your argument there, James.
Listen, Tam, you had your head in your hands here. Come on.
No, I did.
Why?
I understand. Right. Okay, you're talking about loaning players to the teams in the same league. Okay, Partick Thistle, Celtic. You're like the boy Nisbet. We'll make him as an example. Right, he's went to Partick Thistle. He's playing in the Premier League. Brilliant experience for him. You know, rather than go to the Championship, he's playing in the Premier League, he's getting games. Okay, when you play against Celtic, he drops out because, you know, you're not going to let him play and score a goal against you. You know, I've seen it working in Bayern Munich and Juventus. Juventus, there was a guy for Bayern Munich and loaned to Juventus, and they ended up putting him out of the competition. So that's what happened in Europe. You know, you're going to have to...
Yeah, but Tom, the player was allowed to play against his loan team. In Scotland, what we're doing here in Scotland is we send a player out on loan. Let's just say I'm a Celtic man and I send a player out on loan. I'm the Celtic manager, and that player is making a valid contribution, making his opposition viable, and then when that team comes to play against us, the player can't play. They're not sending them out because they're not very good. They're sending them out because they are very good, but they can't get games in their own team.
It's one player though, James. I mean, I don't think. Okay.
Yeah, well, you ask yourself what one player. Just ask yourself what one player made the difference to Celtic this season.
Yeah, but that's different. You're talking about a player that Celtic, as the example that we're using here, have loaned out to someone else.
The point I'm making is one player can make a big difference to a team, especially if that player comes from one of the top clubs like Celtic or Rangers.
So are you saying then that a team that's lucky enough to be able to persuade a Celtic or whoever else to send some of their best young talent, I'm sure that team, Partick Thistle or whoever else, will simply be delighted. Yes, I understand your point. They can't play the guy in 4 games or 3 games, whatever it is, against Celtic. But over the course of the season, they've got a youngster there that can really contribute to their team. And Celtic were happy because they've got a youngster there that, as the guys are saying, is playing at a level of football which will, you know, only improve and accelerate his development. I think everyone's a winner on that one. I do see your point, James, that, you know, maybe if there was a rule brought in whereby if you're going to do a loan deal, then the boy can play whatever games. I wouldn't be necessarily against that, but I think you're making a kind of mountain out of well, I'm not sure.
If the rule was they can play against their loaning club, then, you know, there may be a slight issue of conflict of interest on the player's part. But loaning players to teams within your league and then not allowing them to play against you is surely affecting the entire league. In fact, I would say the integrity of the league.
James, here's another question for you then, to flip that slightly on its head. Would you be in favour of B teams that they have in Spain, for example, where clubs who could afford to have a second string side in the lower leagues, giving experience to younger players that way? Would that be a preference for you?
I think that's absolutely excellent idea. That's what grassroots football should be about. Not about the taxpayer funding grassroots football, it's about the big clubs funding other teams in lower leagues.
Right, James, thanks very much indeed for the call. 0500 92 95. They'll keep them coming. Even Celtic fans. The lads here suggesting, Keith saying maybe Roy Keane is the man. Richard saying don't rule out Brendan Rodgers. So let's hear from Celtic fans. You're ruling him out, right? We'll discuss that in a few minutes' time. Let's get some Celtic fans involved in this. 0500 92 95 and double O. Maybe we'll get him on the phone. And also Rangers fans, your thoughts on the signing targets of Mark Warburton. As Richard said, he looks like getting his business done early. So keep the calls coming to the programme. You're listening to Sportsound with me, Kenny McIntyre, joined this evening by Richard Wilson, Keith Jackson and Tam McManus.
Rangers did it in 2009.
The trophy is handed to David Weir. Rangers Scottish Cup winners 2009.
But it's been well over 100 years since Hibernian last lifted the trophy.
We don't have that victory in our archives.
Even Sportsound wasn't around in 1902.
Who will make history at Hampden by winning the oldest national football trophy in the world?
Rangers are through to the Scottish Cup final. The penalty that will send him back to Hampden.
Rangers versus Hibernian, the Scottish Cup final.
Steps up and scores!
Sportsound. Coverage starts Saturday from 2 on BBC Radio Scotland.
Yes, full coverage right here on BBC Radio Scotland. Just looking on Twitter here, David Reynolds, a Hibs fan, Tam. I asked a question earlier of Hibs fans. Do you still have faith in Alan Stubbs? Got a bit of stick for that, but David says no. He doesn't learn from his mistakes, knew what Falkirk would do, and didn't take necessary precautions. Is that a fair accusation to level at Alan Stubbs?
Listen, as I said before, just at the top end of the show, games are decided in both boxes. I thought that Hibs were the better team over the both games, but they're 2-1 up in both games. First leg is a goalkeeping mistake, lets Falkirk in. Hibs dominate the game from near enough start to finish, should win the game. Second leg, a throw in the box, last kick of the game, throw in. Nobody wins at the front post, bounces all the way through in the box, and Bob McHugh sticks it away as he's done all season. So, can Alan Stubbs affect that? No, he's standing aside. He trusts his players. He sets his teams up to defend properly and to take their chances at the other end. And unfortunately for Hibs and their supporters, they didn't take their chances and capitalise on the domination they had in both legs, and they let in soft goals at the other end, and that's why they get put out.
He was talking earlier, Keith, about Alan Stubbs. I heard some audio there talking about picking his players up. How tough is that going to be after the huge disappointment of not getting promoted?
Oh, that I don't know. I mean, but Hibs are just so unpredictable, aren't they? I mean, and a big part of me is actually thinking how much bad luck and how many bad things have to happen to Hibs before they get a little bit of joy, before they get a rub of the green, before something monumental happens for them.
Do you think that feeds into do you think the players have that mentality somewhere? Why us, things are going against us, we're never going to do this, we're never going to do that. Does that get to a player?
Yeah, I was at Hibs for 8 years and it happened to me every year.
He's still not over it.
You remember I played in the Hibs Hearts game, we were 4-2 up in the 90th minute and we drew 4 each, so that was taking it to a new level. But yeah, it does. I mean, the players, it sticks in your throat. And listen, if Hibs are 1-0 up with 5-10 minutes to go on Saturday, they'll be standing their goal line. They'll be that deep. They'll be hanging on, and the prize is so big for Hibs. I know Rangers are obviously wanting to win the Scottish Cup as well, and great for Mark Warburton, but for Hibs, 114 years, the hoodoo, this abuse they've took for years of Hearts fans, every other club, for them to go and do it on Saturday after the season they've had from near misses, as Keith said, maybe they'll get a wee bit of luck, a wee bit of joy on Saturday.
Do you fancy them? Does anyone fancy them to win the cup? Can anyone be so bold?
It's hard to see it, but in fairness, Rangers' form going into the end of the season wasn't that great. Rangers shipped a lot of goals either side of during the Old Firm semi-final, they shipped 2 in that one. A few games where they lost 3 goals, so Rangers can be a wee bit shaky at the back at times as well. I just think the Hibs players probably mentally as well as physically will have run out of steam. Now, I really do. I mean, it's a big occasion, the cup final, but they'll be so drained at the moment. The prize of promotion is gone. They're facing up to another year in the Championship. I think it's going to be hard for them to pick themselves up. I mean, Rangers are not infallible, but they will clearly go into the game as favourites.
There's another issue to be considered with this game, though, and perhaps Tam will have a better idea than us, but you've Rangers, which is effectively going into hibernation. Hibernation since the end of, since they beat Celtic. And as a matter of fact, the tools went down. They've not really been playing to any sort of level. Even when they were playing in competitive matches, they weren't still competitive because the league was won. That's a long period of time to then try and flick the switch. On cup final day, and I wonder who has the advantage here. Is it an advantage to Hibs to have been playing, and even though they've suffered another massive monumental disappointment, at least they've been playing, at least they've been ticking over, they've been playing in these matches. Who's in better shape, Tam? The team that has had all this time off, or the team that's been playing?
Me personally, as a player, I would rather have been playing, because
well, that's what
I was a guy who I needed matches to play, be at my best, be at my peak. If I took 3 or 4 weeks off on the bench, which I was quite a lot at the time, I was on the bench for a lot, so but I would rather play 5-6 games in the bounce and be really peak fitness. Rangers will be in training hard, of course they will, but Hibs have been playing high intensity games. They've been getting 90 minutes under their belt, and I think that's important. Rangers went down obviously and played Tottenham in a friendly.
I think you can balance that out against if Hibs were winning these games, then yeah, but they've had this huge setback, and there's guys in that team that'll be thinking, another year in the Championship, is that what I want? And I don't know if the mentality then balances out your point about you're better to be playing all the time. I think every player says that, and Rangers have had a break, but the Rangers players are on the up. They're optimistic about next season. They're playing for Europe. I think the Hibs players, it's a huge down that they've just had, so maybe that will balance it out.
I know what you're saying, Richard, but when Hibs players run out that tunnel on Saturday and they see 25,000, 30,000 Hibs fans at the other end, their adrenaline will be pumping again.
It's also
and they'll forget about the promotion and they'll just be concentrating on winning that game.
It's a major chance for redemption, though. It's more than redemption. And I think once you've had so many kickings like that, this opportunity, if you were in that Hibs dressing room, you just couldn't let it slip. You couldn't let this one slip as well, because you'll be remembered for all time as, the worst sinners of this hoodoo. The worst Hibs. I don't want to use Hibs in it again because everybody uses Hibs in it. But no, I'm not going to use it.
Kenny does.
No, I don't.
No, Kenny.
But the worst offenders of all time. If Hibs have got to this playoff situation, they've lost the League Cup. To then, it's too much. It's almost too much for one team. And for that reason, I actually think Hibs will go at this game like it's the biggest, and it is. It might well be the biggest 90 minutes of their life. And with the games, with the momentum, and I know they've had to suffer another setback. I don't know. I've just got a little feeling that Hibs will go into this and play with complete abandon.
Are you tipping them?
Not yet.
No. Don't tip.
I tell you what I would say. I know. What I would say is, if Rangers find the form that they found against Celtic, then it doesn't matter what attitude Hibs approach this game with, because Rangers on that form, well, I don't think they'll be able to live with them. But if Rangers are rusty, if they're slow to get out the traps, if they're not on it, I wouldn't rule out Hibs just yet.
Well, that's a big game we've got for you on Saturday, sandwiched in between the playoff final. First leg on Thursday, we're there on Sportsound. 6:30 we get underway from the Falkirk Stadium on Thursday night. Next up on the phone lines, 0500 92 95 00 is Doogie in Glasgow. Doogie, you, I'm being told, were unimpressed with the refereeing during Friday's Falkirk Hibs match.
Yes, let me stress, I'm not a Falkirk or a Hibs supporter, but Hibs were awarded a penalty, which they scored, and